Today we're going to be ranking every single map in Overwatch, starting off with the worst one being Busan. We will be looking at the flow of the map as well as its visuals. In Busan Mecha Base, the attackers is stuck in this hole, or this, and the defenders have it way easier in my opinion. Downtown is very dive friendly, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but dive is the playstyle that I'm the worst at, so it's personal preference, and that's going to be the case for the entire list. Next on the list is Servasa, that suffers from Flashpoint being the worst competitive game mode in a lot of people's opinion, including mine, and it might also be the map with the worst visual design. Moving on to Oasis, and the worst one is definitely University, being somewhat similar to Busan, the other two being way better, and Gardens is the best one, which is more open and also looks the best. And the next one being Lijiang Tower, which all three maps have narrow choke points that makes it much easier for the defenders and also allows for spawn camping on control center. Now we have Ilios, and some of you might think that I'm going to say that it's so low cause you always get booped off the map, but no. It's pretty much the opposite. People who can't even play Lucio, who can't even play Pharah or even Rodog plays them just to boop. So what happens is that they play heroes that they have no idea how to play to knock people off, which they succeed with maybe once or twice a match. New Junk City, the main thing is that it's Flashpoint and I just can't stand Flashpoint. Then we have Petra, which is a deathmatch map, and deathmatch can be fun to play once in a while, but it's nothing you're going to play too much of, and it's the worst looking deathmatch map in my opinion. Same goes for Kanasaka, which looks slightly better. Next up is Ayutthaya, an elimination map, and it's a better game mode, however the map is too big for that mode. The first 20 seconds you're just walking. Then we have another deathmatch map, Chateauguard. These maps are going to be low by default pretty much, since they're not even the main game modes. Moving on to Samoa, Downtown works fine, it's nothing extraordinary but it works. But what doesn't work is the other two. If you're the first team who captures the point on Volcano, then you're probably gonna be the team who wins that round. Next up is an Assault map, and Assault isn't currently in competitive, but Assault is 2 points which one team wants to capture and the other team defends them, and on round 2 they switch roles. Horizon Lunar Colony is easily the worst of the Assault maps. Then we have Black Forest, and it looks alright. The first payload map is Hollywood, and it's very dive friendly. If you like dive, then you would probably like Hollywood, but personally dive is not for me. Malaviento is a great deathmatch map, it looks good and it plays pretty good. Now we have Colosseo, and I think it's a good design map where it becomes harder to push the further you are. In the beginning both teams have the same amount of distance to the robot, and the area is very flat, but whilst they're pushing, the enemy will get high ground spots and have a shorter distance to the robot. Then we have Watchpoint Gibraltar, the heaven for dive players. I think this might be the most dive friendly map out of them all. The thing that saves this map for me is that it's a payload map. If it wasn't for that, then it would be very low on the list. Eco Point Antarctica, this map is close to being perfect for elimination. It's a very good size, even though size doesn't matter, it's the experience, and the experience is amazing. The only thing that it misses is a void. Without a void, some challenges and stuff like that can be difficult. On to New Queen Street, and I think it has a similar design to Colosseo, where it gets more difficult the further you get, and obviously it's a part of the game mode, but not having the overhang thing helps, because that's something I don't like about Colosseo. The defenders still get their high grounds without having an overhang. Volskaya Industries, the fact that it has an alternative path for dive heroes is great, and if you're playing Brawl or Poke, then you can go through the main entrance. The first point is very good, I would say. The second point has something similar, but isn't as good as the first one. Next up is Route 66. The first and the middle section works pretty good, however, the ending bit is not very good. It's a long, narrow path, while the other sections are very open. The visuals isn't that great, and that drags it down for me. Paraíso, the first section with the point is actually very good, with good layout and good visuals. It's the ending that drags it down a lot. There are some extra paths you can take, but overall it's a pretty enclosed area. Then we have Numbani, which is a good map. I wouldn't say that there's an obvious flaw with the map. Every section is fairly decent, and the visuals too. Then we actually have an elimination map, Castillo. The fact that an elimination map is this high shows how good it is. This is the ultimate 1v1 map. It has just enough cover and is just big enough. The visuals isn't the best, but it's not bad. Antarctic Peninsula, the thing that makes this map so great is that it balances every playstyle perfectly. We have a sub-level where Brawl is very powerful because the map is so tight. Meanwhile, Dive is very strong on labs with a variety of platforms and multiple flank routes. And on Icebreaker, Poke is powerful because the point is easy to maintain. With that said, if you're only playing one playstyle, you will probably just like one of the maps, so you would dislike the majority of the map. Hanaoka, this is a map where your team has to be really organized, so if you're playing in a group, this map can be very fun to play, and it looks good with a Japanese theme. However, if you're solo queuing, then it can be a bit of pain. Moving on to Esperanza, and it's a very good map with lots of flank routes, good size, and personally looks very good. The thing that drags it down is that it's push, which I don't like too much, but it's not terrible. Same goes for Runasapi, however I do like the added high grounds, plus it looks that tiny bit better. Nepal, all three maps are very solid. The void next to the point can be annoying, but usually it's not too much of a problem, and the high grounds gives the attackers a fair chance compared to some earlier maps. All three maps are also very beautiful. Then we have Midtown, which isn't as beautiful as Nepal, but it's payload, and payload gives so many extra points, and I think a lot of people's favorite mode is the one with the payload. Every section has a good layout, especially the ending. Paris, an assault map, the first section has high grounds for the defenders, making it easier for them since they have a longer distance to walk than the attackers. And on the second point, the attackers have multiple paths, with one including high ground, making it easier for the attacker, so it's well balanced. Next up is an elimination map, Necropolis. When I'm queuing to a match, this is the map that I play, and a map that you choose to play every single time you're playing Overwatch can't be any lower than this. And it looks better than any other elimination map, it even looks better than most regular maps. Shambali Monastery, I feel like this map is very unique. The map becomes better the further you get. In the beginning it's pretty narrow, and then it opens up more and more and becomes more beautiful. The ending is so beautiful, just look at it. Then we have Throne of Anubis. I once said that I like Egyptian gods, and we got multiple of them, and the mightiest one is Anubis, and he just looks so cool. And outside of the map we can see Temple of Anubis, which is another map. This map has one of the best visual designs. Moving on to top 10 with Circuit de Royale. It's a Sigma friendly map, and I main Sigma, and it's a payload map, and it looks pretty good. I think it's a generally liked map. Junkertown, the long sightlines on the first point favor snipers and poke champs, while the second point is perfect for dive, and on the third point Brawl is pretty good, so it's like Antarctic Peninsula where it favors every playstyle, but this is a payload map which brings it up a lot. Hanamura, we have the traditional Japanese look, which a lot of people like, and the lore is about Genji and Hanzo, which are heroes that a lot of people like. And it's the place where the cinematic dragons took place, which is the most viewed cinematic. So clearly it has a lot of good things, and they tried to bring it back with Hanaoka, but it didn't quite work. Next up is Havana. The first and the third section is so good, being very open, and it's perfect for Sigma. The middle section is more for dive players, and the map is very colorful. Just looking at it makes you like it. Just short for top 5 is Dorado. It has a good mix of open areas, choke points and high ground, so it works for all kind of playstyles. It's a very cozy map until you get into the pyramid thing. These next 5 is, in my opinion, way better than the previous maps. Entering top 5 with King's Row, which is an absolute classic. You're walking on the streets of London, surrounded by majestic buildings. This is something you would want to build in Minecraft, and that shows how good the visual design is. And the layout is equally as good. Temple of Anubis, this is like Throne of Anubis, but with more statues. Instead of having one Anubis statue, we have 2. The first thing you see when you spawn is Anubis, the god of death. Like, come on. Besides being visually perfect, its layout is surprisingly good. You have platforms everywhere and flank routes and a big open area. The first point being easier for the defenders since they have longer to walk, and the second point being easier for the attackers with multiple paths. The thing that blows my mind is that there are 3 maps that are even better than this one. Next up is Rialto in Italy. The map is interactive, you can hop on the boats and they'll take you around the map. And it has a lot of shortcuts and secret paths. It's a very beautiful map. Moving on to Blizzard World, which looks like 3 different maps depending on which section you're in. The first one is so magical and colorful, referring to the World of Warcraft universe, with a lot of statues of different characters, including Sylvanas' sister, Alira. And moving into StarCraft in the next section with weapons and crystals from the game. And the third section being Diablo, with the same gothic architecture and even including Immortal Throne. The very best map in my opinion is Aachen. Germany has a very beautiful architecture. Personally, it's my favorite style of building. And then there's an enormous castle. Besides the visual design being top tier, the layout is very well planned out. In the beginning, the defenders have it much easier than the attackers, with high ground and only one entrance. But they have their spawn way further away than the defenders to make it fair. And when the point is taken, the defenders get new high grounds because their spawn point is miles away compared to the attackers. And when they pushed it so that the attacker's spawn point is further away, then they get the high grounds instead, and giving the defenders only 2 paths. And then they do the exact same thing in the last section. The map advantage switches depending on how far away your spawn point is through the entirety of the map, making the balance perfect. And what do you think is the best map? Comment down below. Thanks for watching and goodbye.